It's time. It's time for us to tell one of the very greatest stories, the story of the first Christmas. It's time for us to imagine what it would have been like to be in Bethlehem that day. What would we have seen? What would we have heard? I'm going to need your help. All of you at home, I need your help to make some of the sounds of Christmas, some of the sounds that would have been heard that night. Now, there are 4 sounds that we're going to need to tell our story. The delightful sound of sleeping, the soft cries of little lambs, bah, bah, bah. The sound of the cold wind blowing, and the cries of the angels singing, "Glory to God in the highest, glory to God in the highest." Now, as we go through the story, when the picture pops up, you make the sound. Let's practice. Great job. The first scene of our story is the shepherds on the hillside. Are you ready? The story begins many, many years ago. It was a really chilly night. There was a cold wind blowing. Out on a lonely hillside, a group of shepherds were sleeping. They were very tired. All day they had followed their flock of sheep up one hill and down the other, looking for fresh grass. Now the grass was white with frosted dew. The sheep were huddled together against the cold hill. Some of the little lambs were still awake and could be heard. It was a dark night and cold. There were no beds for these resting shepherds. They wrapped themselves in their cloaks and lay on the hard, cold ground and tried to sleep. The cold wind continued to blow over the tired shepherds. The little lambs nestled close to their mother to stay warm. One shepherd was awake, pacing to and fro by the fire, keeping watch that no prowlers came thieving to steal the sleeping flock, and no wild animals came to drag off a tiny lamb. He stopped to listen. He heard the little lambs. He heard the cold wind blowing. Suddenly, all was still. The dark sky became brighter and brighter until it was awash with silver light, and the voice of an angel was heard.
Glory to God in the highest. Glory to God in the highest.
The shepherds awoke, startled, amazed. They hid their frightened, dazzled eyes. The huddled flocks began to stir and mill about. The sky was as bright as morning. Suddenly, a multitude of angels appeared, praising God and saying,
Glory to God in the highest. Glory to God in the highest. Glory to God in the highest.
This is how it might have sounded on a hillside in Bethlehem long ago. How do you picture the stable where Christ was born? Try to imagine it in your mind. Do you see Mary? Joseph? Can you smell the straw in the manger? Do you see any angels? Through the hundreds of years since that starry night when Jesus was born in the manger at Bethlehem, people in all countries have told and retold legends of the first Christmas Eve. One of my favorite Christmas carols tells this part of the story. Let's sing the first 2 verses of Away in a Manger together. Our last scene requires your help again. This time we have 3 different sounds. The clip-clop sounds of camels and cows. Clip-clop, clip-clop, clip-clop. The hee-haw of a donkey.
Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw.
And the wise ones asking,
What does it mean?
to complete our retelling of the first Christmas, we need to imagine the wise ones coming from the east. They came seeking, yet not understanding.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Maybe they rode on camels. Clip-clop, clip-clop. Over sandy deserts and through towns large and small. They followed a star and stopped along the way asking others what it might mean.
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Then onward they continued on their camels. Clip-clop, clip-clop. The star remained always in front of them until finally they arrived at Bethlehem. Perhaps they passed at doorways throughout the small village, asking the townspeople
What does it mean?
as they pointed to the star. Until finally their camels carried them up hill and down, and finally they arrived at the stable. And there, in the stillness and quiet, though the cold wind howled outside, lay the baby Jesus, the Christ child. The donkey was there,
Hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw.
and the cow and camels too. The little lambs were there, and the shepherds too. But they were not sleeping anymore. The wise ones' questions were finally answered
What does it mean?
when the angels began singing,
Glory to God in the highest. Glory to God in the highest.
"The Lord is born into our midst. God has come to live alongside us. God is with us. Emmanuel,